Virtue signaling is saying something for the sake of feeling like a good person and affirming to all within reach that you are one of the good guys. People on the left who have a tendency to virtue signal also tend to have the politically correct view of everything, straight down the line. They're terrified of being associated with any idea that could be considered insensitive, not inclusive, racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, anti-environment, anti-Muslim, anti-black, anti-equality, pro-capitalism, pro-America, or pro-Western civilization. Even if the idea can't honestly be tagged with one of those labels, the virtue signaler is taking no chances. The slightest inclination of an infraction of the leftist code, and they are out. They're sure that strict adherence to leftist orthodoxy is the height of sophistication and the only path to moral salvation. People can be so obsessed with virtue signaling that they cannot bear the thought of actually intellectually walking through issues and touching the ugly details that hard conversations and meaningful conversations are made of. A great example of virtue signaling is when a white person says publicly, "Black Lives Matter" in protest, often in very random moments, to demonstrate their support and solidarity with black people who, according to leftist orthodoxy, are being targeted by police and slaughtered in the streets for no reason other than the color of their skin. Many times the situation in which they shout this has nothing to do with the topic of Black Lives Matter, or the black community, or police brutality, or anything of the sort. But they feel the expression has some greater meaning that can apply to any topic. It's important to understand, they aren't only showing support for the Black Lives Matter movement when they do this, they are also speaking directly to all blacks within reach and saying, "I'm one of the good whites. I love black people. Please be my friend." Unfortunately for those blue-eyed devils, many of the BLM crowd are so convinced of their black Holocaust fantasy that they couldn't allow themselves to befriend Whitey, even if they wanted to. And those that will demand never-ending acts of devotion to the Church of White Guilt. Have fun with that, cracker. It is this desire to assert how great a person you are to whomever will listen that is the heart of the virtue signaling phenomena, even at the expense of the people they claim to want to help. They would never, ever, ever consider questioning the accepted narrative and asking whether blacks could also do something to help solve whatever issue they're struggling with, even if that tough question can lead to a more constructive dialogue and a pivot towards a better outcome for the black community. Nope. It's gotta be 100% the white man's fault, no matter what, because that is the agreed upon story of the left. And in their attempt to gain hero status in the war against white privilege, they help keep the black community chained in darkness and misery on the Democrat plantation indefinitely. But it's okay, because Black Lives Matter. It's a selfish act disguised as altruistic. Not that it should be a surprise that leftists could do something so antithetical to its stated cause. No, this should be expected. These people are cowards. It's much easier to say something that makes you look like an awesome person than it is to explore, consider, and say ugly, inconvenient, and difficult truths. This disease is not exclusively a leftist affliction, though. The insane obsession with everything military and war and national security and policing is another great example of how virtue signaling can be the law of the land, and anyone that questions or doesn't worship the agreed upon sacred cows are heretics and deserve to be ostracized, if not stoned to death. I remember the exact reason I started to realize this about conservatives years ago. It was during the early months of the Iraq War. At this time, I was devouring talk radio and some conservative cable news shows. I was at the height of what I guess could be called my conservative years. One of my favorite talking heads was Sean Hannity. Even though I have a hard time listening to him now, I was a devoted listener then, and I agreed with most of his politics. There was one cliff I could not follow him off though, and it was the reason I knew my political journey was incomplete. That was his insistence on, if you don't support the war, then you don't support the troops. And if you speak out against the war, you are undermining the troops in battle and therefore a traitor. This accusation, depending on how much energy you want to invest in it, can be as nuanced and gray as you'd like it to be. It can be conceded that elements of this idea are true, while at the same time his overall claim is exaggerated and wrong. But if you want to cut to the chase and be black and white about it, here's the Cliff Notes version of my opinion. Bullshit. In a country that champions freedom of speech, and a country that was largely founded on and run by non-interventionist ideas and leaders, we should not be shamed into silence. And how in the fuck does being more eager to send troops off to die qualify you as more pro-troops? It's rare you can get through a day without some Hallmark card-style demonstration of respect and admiration of the military or police on social media, on TV, or radio. It's all around us, all the time. We're expected to worship these people and institutions without question. And I'm sure you see your Facebook friends give in to this virtue signaling urge to the point of nausea. Some of these people have never served in the military or were never cops, so they don't even have the excuse of feeling like part of a brotherhood. They simply worship these sacred cows because it makes them feel like better people and better Americans. And those that don't worship them are bad Americans or not real Americans. This is the right's version of virtue signaling, and it's more entrenched in our psyche than any politically correct notion from the left. This is the mother of all virtue signals. And this is why Rudy Giuliani was so shocked at Ron Paul's statement during the 2012 Republican primary debate, when Ron said, "We have to consider the possibility that our endless foreign intervention could lead to what the CIA calls blowback and events such as 9/11. How dare he? That sounds anti-American, anti-military, anti-military industrial complex, blasphemy, traitor." Both the left and right have sacred cows, and both are committed virtue signalers. They are as dedicated to their own bullshit as they are to destroying each other. And our country is sick because of it. Honesty and courage to express unpopular ideas, particularly to compadres on your side of the aisle, are the missing ingredients to the chicken noodle soup this country so desperately needs.